Hello, this is the Hermetic and welcome to my channel. So, I'm using Basecamp today because it makes things a lot easier to record, much less editing, and I wanted to basically do some channel announcements. So, firstly, a huge thank you to everybody who has been watching, commenting, and supporting the videos. It's really fun. It's a very small calling, but I really appreciate everyone who does. It's really fun for me to give something back to the Mage community for a game that I am absolutely obsessed with. So, first announcement: I am starting a Patreon. I've never really wanted to monetize particularly. I've had people suggest it. They ask me why I haven't. I guess firstly it's very small. Videos get hundreds of views rather than thousands, or some of the older ones have now by now. And I never really wanted to hold myself to any deadlines. It's a big thing for me, which was probably a good idea because during lockdown I found it really hard to do an awful lot on my computer because I was working from home, so I had my face in editing software all day. I didn't want to spend all my free time having my face in editing software. So, but now things are a bit more normal. I have a bit of a better setup, so I'm hoping to put content out much more regularly. So, if you would like to support in that way, then there's a link below that you can go look at. And yeah, so the main benefits are you will get access to content earlier. You will get previews of stuff and what I'm working on, and you'll be able to. I'm moving some of the voting stuff over onto the Patreon, so you'll be able to vote on what topic comes up next. You'll also get previews into other things that I'm doing, which is, I guess, the second announcement, which is to say I'm writing a book, or I have started writing a book. It's called, working title, it's called The Hermetic Hipster's Guide to the 9 Mystic Traditions. And I want it to be a mage source book. It will be released on Storyteller's Vault, as it's a seriously amazing resource for any community made stuff. And so the book is essentially kind of an updated guide to the traditions, which is there's an older book which I very much recommend reading, but this is a bit different. So there will be a section for each tradition, chosen traditions as despite the disparates in the Union and even the Farmby being perfectly playable factions, in my opinion, the traditions are still the poster boys of Mage the Ascension, so it's an obvious place to start. Each of them will have a small amount of lore and fluff and stories, which is something you might be able to help and contribute to. But the main thing is new merits and flaws specific to each tradition, and a new background skill or knowledge. So rules that I hope really exemplify and focus on how the tradition plays, or a really interesting aspect to the tradition's culture. So I'm going to give you a quick preview now. Screen share is working. So there we are. All this is work in progress. All this is me messing around. So yeah, we will scroll down to, so the first example I want to use is the Order of Hermes, as this is one of the first ones that I've actually finished. So I wanted to all have like correct layout and stuff. And we will focus on the new background, which is Hermetic rank. I'll just mess that up. There we go. So this is, again, totally a draft copy. So the idea is that the Hermetics are obsessed with status and rank, and that's something quite unique about them. So this will basically, it replaces the status background for Hermetic characters, and it will give you even stronger benefits of status when you're working within the Order of Hermes. You know, someone who outranks someone else on the Order of Hermes really can get away with a lot more than they normally should be able to. The other aspect of it is almost like requisitions for the unit. You can kind of get favors and draw on Hermetic's resources. You know, they're very organized with certain levels of rank. You can kind of get support from the tradition. So I kind of want this to be a double XP background. And I want this to not just be a background, but really fall into like role playing. Like you can role play getting these ranks. It can become a reward for doing quests or working for the order and all these things. So I really want them to exemplify and enhance how a character plays and how a tradition should play, rather than just being a kind of new mechanic. So each tradition will get something similar to this. I've got most of them. I've written maybe a third of the book. It's all being kind of formatted and laid out, but this is what we have so far. So another thing for the Order of Hermes that's specific to them are the houses. So one of the things I really wanted to do for each of the houses was give them some flair, something that really set them apart. And I think some of the other factions will definitely have things that exemplify the different in-tradition factions. But just for a few examples, the one for House Fortuné, who are my favourite house, and one I played before, I really love. They are kind of the, I guess they're kind of like the wheeler dealers of the Order of Hermes. They're really good with fate and fortune, and that translates really well into the kind of the money makers for the faction. So I thought an appropriate merit for them would be they get access to primal utility. Now I've written a bit about how they don't use it in quite the same way as a syndicate, which is something I want to write a bit more about. But that will be basically a benefit for that particular tradition. Hermetic house. So yeah, that's the kind of thing I think you can expect. Another one from the Order of Hermes is House Flambeau, who are very different to House Fortuné. So House Flambeau are the warrior mages. So I wanted their bonus to reflect this, but I want it to be something a bit more interesting than bonuses to casting fireball or something. So I basically got it that whenever you use an object, which is an object or a technique or something like that, which is a specialty for either brawl, melee, firearms, or any martial arts or any other kind of background, combat background that you might roll as an attack, it will count as a unique instrument for you. So, you know, guns and swords, they become more than just kind of objects to House Flambeau. They really become part of your art and part of your craft. And I hope this reflects that by making things a bit easier to users and encourages House Flambeau to act in that way. So leaving the Hermetics, which is not the first one I completed, but one I really wanted to show, I will show some of the other merits and flaws. Now, a lot of these merits and flaws are specific to certain traditions. What I'm really playing to their style. So one of those would be for the Akashiana Soul of Stone, which reads, "Your vessel is your castle. Through your teachings, you have made your body and mind bastions of defense against outside influences. You may add your dough rating to any roll to resist magical mental influences or to resist drugs and poisons. You may also soak damage from these sources with your dough rating." So this is a theme of merits that I've tried to use throughout all of them, which again play into how that tradition acts. So this is using dough, which is incidentally, dough is one of the kind of the reasons I wanted to do this. Like, it's a rule I really, really love that takes the paradigm of practice and makes it into kind of a complete package. And I really wanted other traditions to have something like that. Incidentally, I've slightly remade dough in this book. It slightly focuses less on it being a martial art and more a kind of an all-encompassing way of life. But it actually, you can kind of, I think you can pick and choose between the ones of M20, which I really like the one of M20, and my version. But back to this. So this uses your dough rating in a different way. And I think it really invokes the idea of the philosopher or warrior monk who's in total control of themselves and able to resist kind of outside influences much better. Not all the merits and flaws are like this. Some of them are a bit broader, and you could arguably have them applied to other traditions or other characters. So another example of this would be Hidebound. So Hidebound is the Akashic way is ancient and has served the Brotherhood well. Modern contrivances and compromises are distractions to enlightenment and should be shunned. While you have this flaw, you may never integrate new instruments into your practice, nor may you put aside instruments as you gain ranks of arity. So this flaw, I think, certainly best fits with the Akashics. You know, they're the oldest tradition, absolutely ancient, and their ways are very can be to some set in stone, although not others. They're also very individualistic. But this, I think, it's a flaw, and it exemplifies that. And but this is also something you could see very easily sitting with the Hermetics or the choristers or certain parts of the youth employ, like the Chakravanti and things like that. Even certain Vibhana groups, it's really meant to represent a mage who is so single-minded about their paradigm and their beliefs that they have real trouble changing. So that's an example of a flaw that you could potentially have for another group, not just the one I've listed it in here. So that's my little preview. I'm really interested to see how much people are interested in this. It's all stuff I'm going to do anyway. I'm going to continue making videos anyway. I'm going to continue writing this book and releasing it. But I just thought it would be a kind of interesting to gauge support.
So a quick change up. This video has been made in 2 parts. I've just had a very helpful conversation with Terry, who makes the Mage podcast, and he's been really helpful, and basically told me that my original plan, which was to fund it on Kickstarter, is either not possible or extremely difficult. And I kind of understood that in a way, and I wasn't totally sure as to how it would work. And that's basically you can't fund things on Kickstarter from Storyteller's Vault because of the way the kind of collaborative way that stuff's made, and you need to buy it on the platform and etc. So I decided not to do that. So we're going to do it on Patreon instead. And instead on there will be membership levels, which will be buying the story or buying the art, which were going to be Kickstarter rewards. And basically they are, the idea would be there'll be 9 stories in the book, each one about a tradition, kind of exemplifying an aspect that I think is worth exploring. But with this, it will be what you think as well. So it will be your character, and we'll talk about your character. It could be an old player character you played, an NPC from one of your games that you ran. It could be yourself, your own kind of persona, or it could be someone you want to play homage to, perhaps a friend or somebody, and or your storyteller if you're a very nice player. And the idea is that I'll basically work with you, and we will craft a story. Within that, there'll be a bit of back and forth. You'll obviously get some sign off on the final version and things like that. So that will be one tier. The next tier, which I guess is really the big one, is the art. So I would really love this book to have new art in it. I considered funding it myself, and I just can't afford to. And also I thought it would be really cool to have some kind of community engagement in this and have people put themselves into a book. So there will be essentially positions for each of the traditions. And with that rank, you're basically, you're buying the art. And with that, I will work with you again to create a draft for an artist. We'll commission a piece of art, and that will exist in the book alongside your name, their name, a short description of who they are, that sort of thing. There will obviously be only 1 for each tradition. So just message me beforehand. If there's one you really, really want, then message me to say it's free on Patreon. These, I'm putting it in a big bold thing in the tier descriptions. Basically, if you buy it and then you cancel it straight away, or rather cancel it once it's been processed, which you get an email. I think I might be able to cancel it for you, but we'll basically make sure that you only pay this one-off level once, and then you feel free to join at a lower level. And yeah, and we'll work stuff out from there. So I can't offer, there won't be a tier reward, which is a copy of the book. None of the Patreon rewards will include a copy of the book, and you will have to buy it on Storyteller's Vault yourself, which should be fine. The Patreon level tier rewards will support the videos still, and I'm not making them particularly expensive. It's not totally about the money. It's about having, I think, hopefully a community and some engagement and getting people involved in projects. And I'd really love to see if this is something that people would like. And because I'd love to do other books in the future. And it's quite a lot of effort and quite a lot of time. that's rewarding, and I really enjoy it. But I'm really interested to see how interested people are in this sort of project.
That's the updates. Those are the new things. I really hope that people are interested. If you're not, that's no problem. Either way, if you want to support or not, the book will be released and will be available to buy at some point in the future, and I will keep making my videos, and I still hugely appreciate people who aren't able to support anything. You know, I hugely appreciate comments and subs and just people watching it. I really hope that in my very small way that I'm giving something back to the game that I very much love. So yeah, I held your attention long enough, I hope. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you there.